Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. I just want to say, obviously for me, this is quite a privilege to be here today under some difficult circumstances, but as a professional, moving forward, getting this team in the right direction. I know, yesterday Doug had a conversation with you, had a conversation with the players. The directive to myself is pretty simple. The message to the players is going to be simple. We got to get playing better hockey here moving forward. So with that being said, I'll open up to questions from anybody.
Drew, how much does it help having as much familiarity as you do with the number of players inside the room?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, I've been roughly 6 seasons with the organization. I don't know the exact amount of players that have come through that I've touched that have played in St. Louis. But if you watched the practice today, it was pretty easy for me to get around, talk to players. I think for them, it's going to be an easier transition for them, knowing me and knowing what I expect and how I do things on a day-to-day basis. I think the transition for me from the American Hockey League to the NHL, certainly I have a staff here that I trust, I know well, I respect. They're going to help me with that process. But it's going to be something, with the players that they're going to see a lot of what they saw when I was in Springfield with them. And if you watched our teams at all, we're a highly competitive team and we're resilient. And I think that's something that, we're going to start to work on here with this group here.
Drew, how surprising was that phone call from Army, and how much do you feel you're ready for this at this point in your career?
I think being surprised, I think at any point you would be surprised. Certainly for me, I keep close tabs on the Blues for numerous reasons, whether it's my players or watching the play. Chief and I had a very good relationship. We talked often. Before him, Mike Van Ryan, I spoke to him very often on what they were doing. So yes, number one, I was extremely surprised. But number two, it was a great honor. Doug's been very good to me through the years that I've been here. I have a good relationship with Doug. So moving forward here, for me, it's going to be very direct with the players. I'm going to be very honest. And like I said, we have to get this moving here quickly in the right direction.
Drew, you talked about having a lot of things to do quickly. There's a lot to try and get accomplished. And with games and practices, it can be difficult. For you guys, what's the number one thing you want to focus on to either adjust or change?
I haven't had a ton of time, Jamie, being able to sit down with the staff member and go, over every system. And to be honest with you, like I said, I don't think it's something that we're going to blow up. I'm sure there's going to be questions about the specialty teams. That's a big part of the game these days, and obviously the specialty teams here, and especially the power play, has struggled. If you watched this morning, we were out early, we were doing our touches. I think that's something that's going to change here a little bit more until we get to where we want to be. The structure of the game, I don't think it's that far off of where it needs to be. I'm going to make some changes myself as I get more comfortable. I think for me, I have to take a step back and observe a little bit too over the next 7 to 10 days and see what needs to be done. But it still won't change the directive of we have to be a much more highly competitive team. And also the accountability process is going to come starting today.
Drew, have you found a way to make your teams highly competitive? What have you done to?
Starts with me in practice. That's it. It's very simple and direct. I expect teams in practice to practice with pace. I expect execution, and when it's time to compete, that we compete. It builds trust and respect within the group, and I think, if you've watched our team in Springfield over the last 3 years, we are a highly competitive team, and whether we win or we lose, I very rarely walked away disappointed with the effort in our group.
Drew, you had a couple of conversations with some of the team's leaders. Can you describe some of the talking points maybe you discussed with them?
I sat down with the leadership group 5 minutes before I met with the rest of the group. A lot of it was what I kind of touched base on here. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to blow things up. But I expect, the four guys, the four captains on our team, to set the tone for the rest of the guys, and we have to start getting into the fight earlier. And that's going to be a collective group, but they're going to be the mainstays. I spend a lot of time with my leadership group. I spend a lot of time with my staff to make sure that we get the message across to all of our players on our team. I think that what you saw out on the ice is me just touching base with, you know, some people that I know, that I've kind of, you know, brought up through the American Hockey League, and then, you know, touching with base with a few guys that I haven't had a lot of conversations with. You know, Schenner and guys like that. I'm new to them. But the honesty thing, and I know Chief was very direct and honest with that, I think they're going to get the same thing with me. And the message might be different in how it's delivered, but it's going to be direct and it's going to be honest.
Drew, I talked to Jordan Kyrou for a moment. He said he met with you, had a good chat. He feels like it's a fresh start for him. What's your approach to a good young player who's maybe struggling a little bit on how you can get the most out of him?
Communication. I think it's the players want feedback. They want honesty, and I think there's a certain way that it's delivered and how it gets across to the players. But in this, you know, on the same sense, they have to be able to meet me halfway too. You know, there's going to be a direct message to them on, you know, the expectations and how I see them and how they can have success, and then it's up to them to meet me there. And with a player like Jordan Kyrou, he's an outstanding player. You know, I've seen it. I coached against him in the Ontario Hockey League. I watched him in the American League dominate. I see what he did here last year. He's going through a tough spell. There's no question about it. But I'm here to help him, and I believe in him.
Drew, how much opportunity have you had to watch games? You know, I mean, you're busy with your team, but I know you watch highlights and stuff like that. And what kind of team do you think you're inheriting right now, where they are from a mental standpoint?
Well, I think it's that's the biggest, you know, obstacle is the mentality of the team, where they are. How often do I get to watch them play? I watch them as often as I can, considering, you know, what's showing on cable that night for me. And when we're playing, I mean, you know, a lot of times we're playing at the same time as they do. So, you know, after our game's over, I might be able to sit down and watch a period of the hockey. There's a lot of good hockey players on this team. This is a good hockey team. You know, but right now we have to get it going in the right direction. The competitive side of our hockey team, the standard has to be raised here.
From a tactical perspective, what are some of your core beliefs as a coach?
Sorry, what was that?
From a tactical perspective, on ice stuff, what are some of your core beliefs as a coach?
I think for when tactically, when we talk about, I don't think a lot of it will change from what you've seen. There's going to be small adjustments away from the puck. I think we have to play quicker away from the puck. In that sense, when we have it, our guys that are away from the puck have to play faster to support pucks. When we don't have it, we have to play quicker to get it back. Defensively, we'll make some small adjustments, but very similar to what I did in Springfield. I think offensively, I think there's some things that I can bring in here that is going to help this team and their offensive players. But there's still going to be structure. There's still going to be some predictability to that. The specialty teams, like I said, I trust the staff. I trust Otter in what he does. I'm going to sit in to see what is happening. But I think the changes that we can make right now is getting our groups out on the ice and getting them more touches with no pressure, and then getting them into situations in games. And when it opens up, it's gonna help this hockey team. That's one main reason is you know, the power play's got to get better. We know that, and I believe in this group. And moving forward, it will be better for us.
Kyrou, how do you give yourself, you know, if you're kind of taking a look at your coaching style, what's your scouting report of what your coaching style is?
I want to be aggressive. You know, the teams that play for me are aggressive in forechecking. They're aggressive on defending. Creativity off the offensive, the rush, in zone. But we're a detailed team. Like I'm really heavy on the habits of our players, whether it's in video or in practice. I'll stop a lot. I'll talk a lot. When I talk about expectations, whenever we get into a drill, I'll give them direct expectations what we're trying to do. And I think that's the thing for me. I'm a detailed coach, you know, but when you look at our teams, my teams play fast. They play with a lot of urgency. And with that, we're highly competitive and we're hard to play against.
Drew, I assume you've been coaching all these years to get to this point in your career to be able to get an opportunity in the NHL. What will your emotions be like tonight when you walk behind the bench? Or will you have nerves? Or how are you going to approach this game tonight?
Yeah, I mean, the human side, I don't know how it will end up, but I'm sure there are going to be some nerves. I'm sure there are going to be some emotions. There's no question about that. You know, as a young kid, you know, growing up in Canada and Northern Ontario, playing the game of hockey, you dream about playing in the NHL and having the opportunity to play. And, you know, I had a short-lived career in the NHL. I had a long playing career. I love the game of hockey. I'm passionate about it. When my career was ending down, I wanted to continue to stay in it because of that. I've grown to love the coaching side. You know, I've grown from it. I've made mistakes on my way, but I've learned from it. And this is going to be another stepping stone in my coaching career.
And speaking of which, obviously you're focused on today, but Doug did say yesterday that it's going to be a wide open search. You're obviously a candidate. How do you look at the situation? Would you like to prove yourself and be that guy?
Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, Doug has a job to do. And, you know, I'm here to get this team right now going in the right direction. And what happens after that happens. I can't control that. I just have to come in here and get this team winning hockey. And that's the end result for me. And if good things happen, if I happen to have to go back to Springfield, that's part of the game. You know, but for me, if I come in here and do my job and the team starts winning hockey games, then we'll see what happens after that. But it's out of my control, and Doug has a job to do.
As it relates to tonight, just what went through mixing all of the lines up and the look that you're well out tonight?
I think, you know, one of the things I did when I accepted the job, I reached out to Otter. I spoke to him yesterday morning at length before I got on the plane. Kind of threw out some ideas, what I was kind of thinking, thought about it on the plane ride, put some notes down, landed in Baltimore. I know they were out on the ice, so just checked in, see how the practice went, how the guys were feeling. Started to talk to him a little bit more about the line combinations. Kind of came up with a resolution, got on another plane, landed, called him again, spoke to him about 8 o'clock last night, and then made those decisions on those lines. I think first and foremost, I think when you talk about Robbie, Bucci, Jordan, the most success they had was last year together. I want to give our team the best opportunity to win tonight, and I think it's having them on a line together. Jordan's one player that we have to get going, but both of those players have to help him in that progress. And then after that, I wanted to have 3 lines that are going to play direct and play fast and can use their bodies, and I think I have that with those 3 lines. Hazy with Torpo and Jakey. Jakey's playing great hockey for this team right now, and so is Hazy and Torpo. He's a guy that I have a lot of faith in. He was a wonderful player for us down in Springfield. I know he's played good hockey here, and we got to get him back to playing more direct and harder to play against in the offensive zone. And then with Mac and Ginger and Sonny, you know, I'm going to be a guy that I have to play all 4 lines, you know, and there's some young players here that we need to see play and see if they can play. You know, with that being said, they got to all meet me halfway, but they're going to have an opportunity. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to have success in this team.